In 2010, a teenager in Texas would get off a school bus and disappear without a trace, only for police to dismiss her as a runaway, despite showing no signs of such. This is a case that truly hasn't gotten enough coverage, and 15 years later, we are still asking, what happened to Allie?
Still no answers.
9 years ago today.
What happened to these two young children?
Remains a mystery.
Urgent story unfolding right now. Who is missing? An unsolved murder.
"16-year-old Alexandria Joy Lowitzer, who went by Allie, was born February 3rd of 1994 to her parents Joanne and John, and had an older half-brother named Mason. Her parents both worked at shipping logistics companies in Houston. The family lived in Spring, Texas, a census-designated place within the extraterritorial jurisdiction of Houston and Harris County. The area has a population of around 62,000 residents, and although the area, now known as Spring, is popularly applied to a large area of northern Harris County and a smaller area of southern Montgomery County, the original town of Spring, now known as Old Town Spring, is at the intersections of Spring Cypress and Hardy Roads and encompasses 1 square kilometer. Allie grew up participating in groups like Girl Scouts and volunteered with a church group for Habitat for Humanity, reflecting her inherently caring nature, likely inherited from her parents. Joanne and John would eventually separate, but for Christmas of 2009, Allie received her first cell phone, a blue LG slider phone, which enabled her to text her large friend group. Once she got that phone, she was nonstop texting. She also liked to collect rocks and stored them in a drawer in her room, and as most girls at that age, loved Twilight and Green Day, and was active in many other activities and sports. As she became a teenager, Allie really began to embrace a more emo or scene look, as many girls did around 2010, wearing black makeup and clothing. She was also very creative. She could sing, she loved art, it was said to be her favorite subject, and had dreams to pursue her art skills in college. She was also dating a 16-year-old boy from her school named DJ, and had been working at a restaurant called the Burger Barn for around 5 weeks, which was her very first job, and she had it to make some spending money.
My daughter had turned 16 in February of 2010, and she immediately started looking for a job. She wanted to be able to earn her own money and spend it how she wanted to. She had things that she wanted to buy that me and her dad, we just didn't have the extra money to buy it for her. So she applied at some places in the mall, at some local I think fast food restaurants, but mainly the mall. She wanted to work in the mall, mainly Hot Topic. But right around the corner from us, it was less than a quarter of a mile away, there was a little burger joint called the Burger Barn in a shopping strip, and she applied there and she got the job.
Sunday, April 25th of 2010, Allie spent the day hanging outside of her family home skateboarding with her boyfriend. Joanne noted that he seemed like a very sweet kid. The following morning of Monday, April 26th was like any other spring day. Like many other mornings, Allie slept in to the very last minute, then rushed to get herself ready for school and to the bus stop to be picked up. She left her home on Low Ridge Road, a suburb in the Postwood neighborhood, around 7:30 a.m. She made it to the bus stop on time and headed to Spring High School, where she attended. At the end of the school day, Allie got back on her bus. While riding home around 2:30 p.m., Allie called her mom to tell her that she had forgotten her house keys. Joanne would call her 18-year-old son Mason, who was still at home, just to let him know, hey, leave the door unlocked if you go out, because Allie didn't bring her keys with her. Allie had also asked her mom while she was on the phone with her if she could walk to the Burger Barn after she got off the bus. She wanted to go there because she wanted to pick up her paycheck, and she also wanted to see if she could work a few hours. This would have only been her third paycheck, so she was really excited to get it. The Burger Barn was only about a 10-minute walk from the bus stop, and it was located in a strip mall along Cypresswood Drive. However, Joanne said no, because Allie had never walked somewhere alone before, and the walk from the bus stop to her work had no sidewalk. But after begging her mom on the phone for a while, Joanne reluctantly gave permission to Allie to walk to work. However, she told her that once she got there, she needed to send her a text message or call her and let her know if she was just going to be picking up the check or if she was going to stay later at work. Some of the last known images captured of Allie started at Spring High School when she was leaving school around 2:25 p.m. At 2:44 p.m., Allie would last be seen exiting the bus with other students, only 3 houses from her home. A couple of boys were said to get off the bus at the same time and walked in the direction of their home. They would later report that Allie was lagging behind, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. It was also noted that she was texting on her cell phone. However, that same phone would go dark shortly after walking away from her bus. The last eyewitness sighting of Allie states that she was not seen walking towards her home. Instead, she walked away from her home towards the exit of the neighborhood. The last communication on her cell phone was around 2:57 p.m. when she sent a text message to a friend. A reasonable assumption would be that 10 minutes of casual walking would put Allie somewhere on the road outside of her neighborhood in the direction of the Burger Barn, just as she said she was heading, and around the area where her phone went dark. Around 5:30 p.m., Joanne would return home from work to find that Allie was nowhere at home. This wasn't immediately alarming because her daughter had told her that she was going to head off to work, and she just assumed that she would eventually get a call or a text from Allie to come pick her up, but maybe her boss didn't let her be on her phone, and so that's why she wasn't able to send that message. It was very often that Allie's grandmother would drive her to work, and then after work, Joanne would go pick her up. Around 7:30 p.m., Joanne would send Allie a text message to check up on her. However, she never got a response. After waiting a while, she sent another text message that also went unanswered, and that's when she began to grow concerned. And by 8 p.m., Joanne still hadn't heard from her daughter. Accounting for the Burger Barn closing roughly at 9 p.m. and the staff needing time to clean up, Joanne would leave the home just before 9 p.m. so that she could go and check up on Allie and figure out why she wasn't texting her or calling her. However, when Joanne arrived at the Burger Barn, it was closed. All the lights were out and the doors were locked. This was literally a parent's worst nightmare. That's when her concern began to peak. Joanne immediately began contacting other family members, including Allie's father, John. Together, they began calling Allie's friends and driving from home to home, trying to see if they can find their daughter and figure out what was going on. This was not like Allie at all. They even went to her boyfriend DJ's home and found out that he had also been trying to text and call Allie all evening, and he also wasn't getting a response. After her family and friends spent hours frantically trying to locate Allie, they finally called authorities and attempted to report her missing just before midnight. But since there was such a delay in knowing that she was missing, that meant that there was a 9-hour delay from when she was last seen alive. But to everyone's shock, when the officer arrived at the home, it was actually a female officer. She took a brief look at Allie's room and told her parents to call them tomorrow when Allie showed back up. Joanne would ask the officer, "What do we do then if she doesn't come home?" And the officer simply said, "Call us." No report was taken, no real advice was given. It was really an absolute failure of the law enforcement system. It is way too often we hear, you have to wait 24 hours or 48 hours, or, they're going to come back. They probably just wandered off and wanted some alone time, or they ran away. But when a family says that something's not right, the authorities really do need to listen. And this is a prime case here because the officer just thought that Allie probably was over at someone's home and she'd be back in the morning, yet she's been missing for over a decade now. She's still not been found. Overnight, Joanne and John continued to try to contact family and friends on their own, driving around to all of the known hangout spots and neighborhoods with no success. John eventually would go back to his home to try to sleep, but Joanne stayed up all night long, eventually calling him when the sun came up to tell him that Allie still wasn't here. She still hadn't come back. So her parents continued to investigate on their own. They were able to gain access to the surveillance footage from the bus that Allie had taken that day to see that she did in fact get on that bus, and she did get off at her bus stop like normal. She also got off the bus with 2 neighborhood boys. One of these boys lived nearby, and so her parents ended up going over and questioning him. And this is when they learned that she hadn't walked towards her home, but instead she had turned around and walked in the direction of Burger Barn outside the neighborhood. So John headed over to the Burger Barn to see if anyone there had any answers for him, but the owner ended up telling him that Allie hadn't showed up the day before and she also didn't get her paycheck. It turns out that the night before, when Allie disappeared, they'd actually closed down the Burger Barn early that day, which apparently wasn't very uncommon for this location of the Burger Barn because they would kind of close it depending on how busy the nightly business was. And I guess that night it wasn't busy, so they closed early. That's when John noticed that the gas station across the street had a really good view of the plaza that the Burger Barn was in. So he went over there, and they also let him gain access to the security footage. But when he looked, Allie wasn't captured arriving at the plaza at all, confirming again that she had not made it to work. Around this time, Joanne also realized that their AT&T phone plan had family map tracking. And when she checked it, it showed that Allie's last ping was right outside of the neighborhood, meaning that something happened to her during that short walk between getting off the bus to exiting the neighborhood. It's as if she vanished completely into thin air during that point in time, her cell phone also just shutting off. Monday, May 3rd, Joanne and John supplied authorities with all of that information that they had gathered, including the security footage from the buses as well as the gas station. Although police were still classifying Allie as a runaway, they did return to the Lowitzer home to further investigate. Inside of a journal in Allie's bedroom, they found an entry that alluded to running away. Her parents, however, didn't believe that her writings reflected who Allie truly was or how she truly felt. She had no history of running away or any criminal behavior at all. She was a good kid. She hadn't had any fights with her parents or anyone that they knew of in the immediate time surrounding her disappearance. It was simply a normal day. After this, her status would be changed to an endangered runaway. Authorities also concluded that there was no evidence of a crime taking place. So yet again, Allie was failed. Her family strongly disagreed with law enforcement, saying that this was not Allie's typical behavior, and there were circumstances that to them suggested foul play, and I completely agree. No 16-year-old teenager just leaves home with, the goal of a destination. There seems to be no text messages to confirm that she had plans to run away or go off with someone, or else you'd think that, that information would be out here. But I also did see, keep this in mind, that her parents weren't able to access the actual text messages. It was just kind of like times marked. But correct me if I'm wrong, if people do know that information. But it seems like there is no solid evidence to show that she had actually planned to run away. There was no message to a certain individual saying that she was going to meet up with them. She had the goal to walk and go get that paycheck, yet she never made it there. That to me suggests that something bad must have happened. And her case has all of the bad signs that we often talk about in cases like this where someone goes missing, such as that since getting her cell phone, Allie had been a very avid texter. She had a lot of friends. She had a boyfriend. It was noted that she averaged 4,000 text messages a month and her phone was always on. She did not let that phone die. Yet the last ping from her cell phone was 3 p.m. after getting off of her bus, just outside of the neighborhood. That means about 3 minutes after sending that last message to a friend, her phone just completely turned off for some reason. Her bedroom was also said to be exactly as it had been left the morning she went to school. Left behind was her phone charger, clothing, makeup, money, jewelry, and things that were very important to her. Items you'd expect someone to take if they were planning on running away. Her paycheck was also not picked up. Again, if someone was planning on running away, especially a teenager, they're going to need some kind of money. You'd think they'd take stuff like that with them. Allie also wasn't the kind of teenager that, ran around town alone. Again, this was the very first time her mom ever let her walk somewhere by herself, which I can't imagine that guilt. I can't imagine just the pure timing that the one time she finally allowed her to have a little bit of freedom to walk 10 minutes down the street to her work, something bad happened. Allie was said to rarely go out with friends, and she was one of those people that just loved being home. She was a homebody. Her friends would more often be hanging out at her home than she would ever go to theirs. She was said to really like being in her room, drawing, painting, and listening to music while texting or talking on the phone. She was an active girl, involved in softball, Girl Scouts, choir, and art, and had plans for her near future. She was also looking forward to helping arrange an Alice in Wonderland party for her best friend's birthday coming up. This wasn't a girl who had a troubled past. She was seemingly a normal girl that didn't cause any trouble, and she also didn't live a high-risk lifestyle. Yet police still weren't putting in the work to find her. After trying to do all that her family and friends could think to do on their own, her mom took the advice of a friend and called the Laura Recovery Center. The next morning, they would arrive and help to organize a group of family and friends.
Family in Spring is refusing to give up hope in search of their daughter. 16-year-old Alexandra Lowitzer was last seen returning home from school 1 week ago today. She's currently listed as a runaway with the Harris County Sheriff's Department, but Alexandra's family is going to continue to search. Volunteers met this morning at a church in Spring and will continue to look for Alexandra throughout the evening.
Despite police's lack of effort, the Laura Recovery Center dove right into helping the family. They immediately established a command center, coordinating search teams and volunteers to search the immediate area. For 2 weeks straight, the Laura Recovery Center also executed and helped set up awareness alerts, flyer distribution, and searches. Hundreds of searchers, including local mounted search and rescue teams, dog searches, ATVs, boats, and volunteers from the community searched in wooded areas, creeks, and houses in the area. A $25,000 reward would also be placed. By May, media was taking on the story, and that is finally when investigators came knocking on the family's door. And these detectives turned out to be homicide investigators that were taking over the case, meaning that everything was starting from scratch again. This group of officers would take Allie's dad John to the station and interrogate him for hours. They did the same thing to her 18-year-old brother Mason, who was home at the time when she disappeared. And he remembers hearing the bus outside but never saw his sister. He then is noted to have left home a short time after. Both Allie's dad and brother said that doing these interrogations was extremely hard on them. It's also noted that both took polygraphs and both passed. But despite both of them passing, investigators would clear John. However, they never cleared Mason because they couldn't 100% prove that he wasn't involved. My assumption being that John had a solid alibi, but Mason was home at the time his sister disappeared and then left shortly after. So there really is no alibi there. Authorities also looked into the last person that Allie had texted, which was an older boy from school named Jay, who she had messaged to ask if he wanted to hang out after school. The two had been friends for more than a year, and when detectives tracked Jay down, he said that he had never met up with her and he actually had other plans that day. So having an alibi, he ended up also being marked off. The owner employees at the burger barn were also questioned, and they were eventually all crossed off the list as well. Weeks later, information dwindled along with public interest.
And without any evidence of foul play, Allie Lowitzer was initially classified as a runaway.
I've known from the beginning that she didn't run away. The runaway label has been very frustrating for us.
Joanne and John Lowitzer say it was only on what would be Allie's 18th birthday that she was deemed a missing person. Throughout that time, possible sightings trickled in. Most ended up being lookalikes, if they could be substantiated at all.
We've had, since the very beginning, we get a lot of leads, and we still get leads to this day, but unfortunately nothing has, directed us to, her exact whereabouts.
And so the Lowitzers continue to count the days.
Sometimes it feels like yesterday, and then sometimes you feel like it has been forever.
Days of doubt and sometimes despair, simultaneously wishing for and dreading a knock on the door or a ringing telephone.
There's countless times where I just kind of picture that day in my mind where you get that phone call or you do see her and you pick her up and you hold her and you hug her as tight as a parent could hold their child. And I really long for that day. I really do.
And 2 years after Allie vanished, the family's PI's interest was piqued after a 20-year-old college student named Mickey Shunick went missing 250 miles away in Louisiana on May 19th of 2012. She was last seen around 2 a.m. riding her black Schwinn bicycle from the home of a friend. It turned out, while riding home, a 33-year-old man named Brandon Laverne intentionally hit her with his pickup truck, sending her flying to the ground. He then insisted she get into his truck and threw her bike into the bed of it. When Mickey pulled out her phone to call for help, he pulled out a knife. Mickey responded by pulling out a can of mace and spraying Brandon in the face. While he was blind, she grabbed his knife and stabbed Brandon several times, but he fought back, stabbing her back at least 4 times, leaving her incapacitated. Believing he'd killed her, Brandon drove her body to a sugarcane field, where he planned to dump her body when she suddenly came to, jumped up, and once again got a hold of the knife, stabbing Brandon in the chest. He then pulled out a semi-automatic handgun and shot Mickey once in the head, killing her. After dressing his wounds, Brandon then got rid of his bloody clothes and other evidence of the crime. He then drove Mickey's remains to an area of an old cemetery in Evangeline Parish, intending to bury her, but was unable to because of his injuries. So he left her body in a wooded area, covering it with branches and debris. He would then dispose of both her bike as well as the gun in separate locations. He also went to a hospital to have his wounds treated at that time and lied about how he actually got them. It would turn out that Brandon actually had a long history of SA and other violent crimes. He was reportedly on probation until 2010 and is listed as a Tier 3 S offender, the most serious classification. In the year 2000, he was actually charged with aggravated oral sexual battery. Brandon would also later admit to murdering Lisa Ann Pate, who went missing in June of 1999. Authorities believe that Brandon met Lisa in Lafayette and persuaded her to go out of town with him, where he killed her on or around July 3rd of 1999. Authorities believe that Brandon had killed Lisa by putting a plastic bag over her head and suffocating her. Her remains were later found in Church Point, Louisiana, in September of that year. So what does any of that have to do with Allie's disappearance? Well, it turns out that Brandon was driving a white pickup truck at the time of Mickey's murder, and a white pickup truck was also noted in Allie's case file. This came after someone submitted a tip claiming to have witnessed a girl talking to someone in a white pickup truck. And this sighting happened on the road towards Burger Barn. And surely enough, Brandon also had ties to Spring, Texas. He had family in the area, not far from where Allie lived. On top of that, after killing Mickey, Brandon had actually set fire to his truck just north of Spring, Texas. Now, of course, hearing all of this, Brandon would eventually be questioned while in prison, but he would deny having any connection to Allie. And it turns out that he actually had an alibi. He was out working on diesel engines offshore, meaning it was a very solid alibi. He couldn't be out in the ocean and then also in Spring, Texas at the same time. So in the end, despite all of those connections, Brandon was ruled out. A second PI would be hired in the fall of 2012. This led to the theory of Allie being kidnapped and trafficked. Considering that Houston is known to be one of the biggest hubs for human trafficking, it really wasn't that far-fetched. And the fact that her phone was shut off seemingly at the moment she vanished, it was a big red flag. It's a really strange point in this case. And of course, there were tips of sightings of girls that looked like Allie across the United States. And for one sighting, the PI traveled to Ohio to investigate. Multiple street people claimed to know a girl named Alley Cat, which turned out to be Allie's nickname. The PI would end up going undercover and working with authorities, and she would enter one drug home where she believed that Allie or girl like Allie was staying. And she would end up seeing this girl in there and was convinced that she did find Allie. Now, again, working with authorities, she coordinated that they were going to go in and they were going to rescue her. The PI even brought Allie's parents all the way across the country to Ohio. But in the end, when that raid was executed, there were drug charges laid and 8 women were rescued, but Allie was not among them. Over the years, Joanne continues to receive the occasional tip through her website that she has set up for Allie, though it is sad that they have dwindled over the years. Allie's fingerprints have also been uploaded to databases, but she has never come up anywhere over the country over the last decade or so. It was noted in one article that as of 2024, just last year, the family hadn't been contacted by authorities in at least 5 years. And it was also noted that they instructed the PI to stop contacting them, despite the PI and family being the ones to provide the authorities with all the information that they'd gathered at the beginning of the investigation. Joanne has spent the years trying to dedicate her time to helping others with missing loved ones, volunteering with groups such as the Texas Center for the Missing and Texas EquiSearch. Joanne saying, quote, "Most of the time, there's just not enough information. Additionally, I think people still envision Allie as a teenager because those are the last photos we have. Her birthday was in February, and she turned 30. I don't believe people are actively searching for a 30-year-old, especially since it's been almost 14 years, and there's been some big changes. It's incredibly frustrating. You want the case to be worked, but when you reach out repeatedly, they brush you off. They even instructed my private investigator not to contact them anymore when we were conducting our own investigation. At the beginning of the first several years, we were giving them all the information we have. Allie drives me to continue. I figure I can only go forward. I can help myself and learn about different cases, different scenarios about missing persons, and see if it applies to my own story, and if I can help another family in the process. And then why not? As someone who has always had compassion, if I can help someone else, even if that means giving the shirt off my back, I will do it. That's the only way I feel I can live the rest of my life. to continue fighting anyone and everyone to find her. That's my way of keeping the word out that Allie is still missing. I wanted to use this platform to give other families a voice because in the couple of years after Allie went missing, she didn't receive nearly the attention I felt she deserved because she is still missing. It's like you want to climb to the top of the tallest building and shout out that she's still missing, hoping that anybody and everybody will just stop and listen to you. How can someone live with this information for almost 14 years and not come forward? I plead, just tell someone who will tell someone else. We just want her home, no matter her condition, because the probability of her being alive is slim. When I talk about her, I try not to dwell on whether she is or not, but it's a struggle. Deep down, I know she's likely not alive anymore. I feel like something went wrong that day. I can sense it. Without witnesses, there was no Amber Alert. I urge other parents to get more involved in their kids' lives, even if they push back. It's the only way to keep them safe. End quote. Her father, John, has also said, quote, "It's hard every day. Put it that way. I think about it all day, every day. Whether I'm not focused on something else, my mind goes back to missing her. Everything we've done to find out where she is, what we could have done. It still hurts after 2 years. This past weekend, we had a search. It takes a huge emotional toll on me and her mother. You end up breaking down at the end of the day, wishing you had found some clues to uncovering her, or finding out where she is. We miss her, and we love her, and we want her back as soon as we can get her here. It's really hard without her. There's an emptiness. There's a hole there, and it's been there since she's been gone." End quote. Allie's case truly is a strange one because it does simply seem that she vanished when she got off her school bus. The question is, what happened to her while she was walking to the burger barn? Was it a stranger like Brandon who kidnapped her off the side of the road? Could that witness sighting of a girl talking to someone in a white truck be true? Just it wasn't Brandon, it was someone like him. Or could she have been lured off by someone that she knew? Or was she kidnapped for something like trafficking or a PDF file? Could that PI have actually seen Allie in Ohio? I think the best thing we can do is not stop talking about Allie. We need to spread out her photo and her information because like her mother has said and like her father has said, she did not get enough coverage. There is not enough people out there talking about Allie. I had never heard of her case until someone mentioned it in my comments and I wrote it down and I finally have gotten to looking at it. And it is just so sad that she went missing 15 years ago now and I have never heard her case before, and that says to me that there could still be people out there that have the answers that have just not come across her case and know that they have the answers. So the goal is to spread these cases far enough out there so it does hit those people who haven't heard of this case before that do have the answers. Because someone out there knows something. Over the years, Joanne has not only started a website for Allie, but also has a TikTok page talking about Allie. I'll have both of them linked down below. Please go show her family love and support. They need it. They deserve it. It has been way too long that Allie has been missing and they don't have answers and they don't have justice for her. Let her family know that she is not forgotten. And again, if you're able to share out this video, share out her missing persons flyer, share out her mother's TikTok videos or any other content on Allie's disappearance, please do so. The best way to support her family is by doing that because again, it may hit the people with answers. And if you do know something, please say something. It's been long enough. Allie is described as a white female, standing 5'2" tall, weighing around 145 to 150 pounds, with blue eyes and brown hair that was dyed dark red at the time of her disappearance. Allie's ears and nose are both pierced. When she was last seen, she had braces on her teeth. She was also last seen wearing black and white checkered skinny jeans, a shirt and a hoodie, a multicolored backpack, and had a blue LG slider phone. Alexandria may go by the nicknames Allie, Alex, or AJ. This is also an age progression sketch to show what Allie may look like now as an adult if she is still out there. Again, if you have any information, please contact the authorities. I'll have the information down below. Let's bring this girl home. Let's get this family answers. My heart goes out to Allie's family. But what do you all think happened here? Do you have any other information that I didn't include in today's video? Let's chat about it below. And as always, I hope you all stay safe out there. Lock your windows and doors, and I hope to see you in the next video.